Hey, we need it in there. We need to get it in the end zone, all right? Come on now. Knock him out. Knock him out.
All right, bust your mouth now. Let's go solo right.
Watch the blitz. 92 Texas. X-curl, halfback wide.
Wing zig out. We're cutting them. Reverse fullback, screen right. On one. Ready, break.
Set. 180. 180.
Black 59 Razor. Black 59 Razor.
323.
Red Houston.
330. Hot one. Hot.
The quarterback is the most important man on the football field. And that's why I tell these guys, you better protect him.
Give me some time. Damn it. Give me a little time to
Rush the quarterback. You understand?
My philosophy as a linebacker was get the quarterback, kill the quarterback. Get the quarterback. You get him out of the game, we'll win.
You're out there slugging it out, but you have a great quarterback, and all the other talents even, that great quarterback's going to win the game for you.
Red ball! 11, attack, set alert!
Ball's in the quarterback's hands, and I know personally I wouldn't want it to be in anybody's but mine.
Back to throw, and he's going to run, and he dives for the touchdown! Jim Kelly is being mobbed!
I think that's the reason you play this position, is because you look forward to those times when the game does rely on your shoulders, and you like the fact that everybody looks to you to be the guy to make the plays.
Here's Brett Favre on the roll to the right, looking now, goes back to the left. He can run, no, he's still with the ball, and he is caught from behind, got away. Still, throws a touchdown! Holy cow!
There's nothing like being the tough guy, you know, being the intelligent guy, taking the responsibility.
Unbelievable game by Steve Young, one of the courageous games I've ever seen in a pro football player's career. To get the winning score is just the stuff of legend.
It is literally the greatest position in all sports.
Touchdown! Washington Redskins! That, gentlemen, may be the nail in the coffin.
Who are the 50 greatest NFL quarterbacks? Some choices are obvious, others are not. Few historians count Frank Ryan among the best, but they should. Twice he led the NFL in touchdown passes, and in the 1964 championship, his 3 touchdown tosses routed the Baltimore Colts. Often overlooked is Burt Jones, the NFL MVP in 1976, whose career was shortened by injuries. Durability, however, was never a problem for Charlie Connerly. A gritty survivor of 14 seasons, Connerly was masterful in winning the 1956 championship. He was just as good 2 years later. Problem was, John Unitas was better.
Had the Giants won that game, and had Charlie Connerly been the most valuable player in it, that Charlie Connerly would be in the Hall of Fame today, which he should be in anyway. Charlie Connerly has been deprived of his real stature in pro football.
The same can be said for John Brody. His numbers are Hall of Fame worthy, but there is no bust of Brody in Canton, Ohio. Football's highest honor has also eluded Ken Stabler, and that's puzzling. He was a Super Bowl champion, one of the game's most accurate passers, and an absolute master of the 2-minute drill. In a performance equal to the exploits of Elway, Marino, or Montana, Stabler drove the Raiders the length of the field and put a memorable end to the Dolphins' unforgettable dynasty.
Here he is, fading, looking. He's under the gun. He's fired, he throws. It is. He caught it. Stabler had to loop the ball up because he was hit as he threw. It looked like he might have been lobbing it into the promised land for Miami. But no, you'll never see a better game than this one, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you'll agree.
Frankly, it was maybe the greatest football game I have ever seen. It was just incredible.
The Oakland Raiders were a product of the old AFL. That organization, which began in 1960, was originally ridiculed as a Mickey Mouse League. But it provided opportunities for quarterbacks who were cast out or not considered good enough for the NFL. In the AFL's first 7 years, the league champion was led by either Len Dawson of the Kansas City Chiefs, Jack Kemp of the Buffalo Bills, or George Blanda of the Houston Oilers. San Diego's John Hadle would finish his career with 244 touchdown passes.
You're talking about bomb after bomb.
Then there was the Mad Bomber, a nickname Darryl LaMonica earned for his proficiency at delivering the deep ball. In the end, they were all eclipsed by the exploits of Joe Namath. The first quarterback to throw for over 4,000 yards, Namath not only possessed a powerful arm, but a personality to match it.
Get points on the board, Joe! Points on the board, Joe!
Cool, confident, and charismatic, he dispelled the notion that successful quarterbacks must have high-top shoes or short-cropped hair.
The NFL had great players, but everybody had to wear their hair the same style and behave the same. They didn't have the liberty to be themselves, I don't think.
Sometimes they talk about drinking and conniving around with ladies and stuff. You know, it seems almost un-American to me for a bachelor not to marry, go around having a drink with a lady now and then. And why all of a sudden that's become an evil in me, I don't know, but some people don't like it. Well, you can't please everybody. I'm just trying to get along, just trying to get by. Look at that shot.
I have no official statistics on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if his career was the cause of a lot of female fans being attracted to the NFL. He had a kind of style. He was a jock, but he could be a real gentleman in his way. You know what I mean? There was something about him that was extremely suave. He had a great sense of style, even if it were outrageous. Full-length fur coats and all. I would say he was definitely an original.
He was also fearless, openly challenging the NFL in the days before Super Bowl III.
I got up to the podium, and about the time I'm getting ready to talk, a guy in the back of the room, "Hey, Namath, we're gonna kick your..." You know what? I said, whoa, wait a minute. I said, I got news for you. We're going to win the game, I guarantee. Our team wasn't getting respect, and that's how the guarantee came out. It was not planned, it wasn't premeditated, it was just anger and frustration, and I really believed we were going to win the game.
Because I had it on last time. That's why I took the ball away. I had a 60-yard rip on.
But they didn't safety blitz.
They checked it off.
Did you check it though?
Yeah, I checked the line. I had something else on.
Led by Namath's MVP performance, the Jets toppled the mighty Baltimore Colts. The AFL was suddenly the Mickey Mouse that roared.
I was surrounded by all these NFL people cheering for the Baltimore Colts, and I was kind of slumped down in my seat because, I didn't want to be noticed too much. But as the game progressed, and as Matt Snell was able to run, as Joe Namath was able to throw some passes, and all of a sudden, I'm starting to sit upright in my chair there in my seat at the stadium at the Orange Bowl. And about the fourth quarter, I'd heard all these derogatory things said about the American Football League that I had to stand up, and I said, okay, how does the American Football League look now?
He can't cover that thing, Lenny. Throw it any time. That pitch on the outside. That's a good time to throw it right there, you see.
1 year later, Len Dawson was the MVP in the Chiefs' victory over the Vikings.
They can't cover that in a million years. No way in the world they can cover that stuff. See, that's like stealing over there.
The two leagues merged. Pro football entered a new decade of growth and prosperity. At the same time, Joe Namath's fortunes began to decline. Ravaged by injuries, Namath in the 1970s was a shell of his former self. he quietly faded away. Few remember that his career came to a disappointing end in 1977 as a Los Angeles Ram. But Namath is a prime example of why career numbers and quarterback ratings are not always the yardsticks by which greatness is measured.
Namath is like one of those great athletes who lives fast and dies young. Bill Walton, Gale Sayers, Sandy Koufax have a few great seasons and leave an indelible mark because of it. It's hard to compare them to quarterbacks who had much longer careers. But those guys, they're meteors, but they light up the sky when they're great.
Some quarterbacks occupy a field. A few rule it. Some quarterbacks hold the crowd. A few possess it. Some quarterbacks light up a team. A few ignite the play. These combustible few blaze with the X factors of generalship, intensity, intelligence, authority. There is a royalty apart from the position. When these men take the field, their fellow players are as attentive as the fans. Few quarterbacks are of this royal breed. They are the young, the old, and the bold.
And now note that frame sheet of glass in the foreground. And in the background, 60 yards away, is Curly Lambeau's sensational passer, Arnold Herber. I'm told that Herbie can smash that glass at this distance in 1 out of 2 tries. Yeah, I don't believe it either. But then, let's see how close he comes to it. Crash! What a passer!
The pioneers of the passing game had to rely less on high-tech playbooks and more on their own tough-minded temperament. Could these players succeed in any era? Well, Norm Van Brocklin did. He was a champion in the early 50s with the Los Angeles Rams. In 1960, his final season, he led the Philadelphia Eagles to a championship over Vince Lombardi's Green Bay Packers. Bobby Lane doesn't rank high on any career stat sheet, but how many modern passers have won 3 straight division crowns and 2 consecutive NFL titles? Only Bart Starr quarterbacked more NFL champions than Sid Luckman, who led the Chicago Bears to 4 titles. Perhaps the best of the old-time quarterbacks was Sammy Baugh. Slingin' Sam not only possessed the strongest arm of his era, he brought an attitude to the position that was timeless.
When you're on the field, you got to feel like you're the best son of a bitch that's out there. That's what you're thinking, that nobody is damn better than I am. Now, when you get off the field, you don't think that way. You're just a football player, and you did your job, and that's about what it amounted to.
Baugh was also a defensive back. In 1943, he led the league in interceptions, was the top-rated punter, and won one of his record 6 NFL passing titles. But in the championship, he literally ran into his great rival, Sid Luckman.
Before the game, the coaches put their arms around me and said, "Sid, this is the championship. Everything goes today." So they had me catching punts. And Sammy kicked this punt. It was about a 40, 45-yard punt. I caught the punt. I took 4 steps. I broke to the right. I came down the sideline. And who was there? Sammy Baugh, the kicker and punter. I said, do I try to elude him or do I try to run over him? It was a decision. It had to be a split decision. I said, no, I'm going to run over him. And with that, I just pumped as hard as I could, ran as hard as I could, raised my knees as hard as I could, and I hit him as he went to tackle. I hit him in the head, and he was unconscious. And he didn't get back in the game till the middle of the third period when he did go through touchdown passes, 2 of them before the game was over. But by that time, we were ahead by, like 41 to 14.
Luckman threw 5 touchdown passes, winning the title and the 1943 Most Valuable Player Award.
Not so long ago, we talked about that and joked about it on the telephone. And it was just that the way he tackled me was a hard luck tackle.
We do the best we can on the field. We try to beat their butt, but after it's over, you don't have any animosity towards anyone. I never did. Sid and I became real good friends.
Sammy Baugh wound up playing 16 seasons. He still ranks as the all-time leading punter, and his 6 NFL passing titles may never be surpassed. But he never won the MVP award in 1943, arguably the greatest season any NFL player ever had. Of course, overcoming adversity is a characteristic of greatness. Like Sammy Baugh, Doug Williams was seriously injured in a championship game. But Williams summoned up the courage he once displayed as an expansion team quarterback to win a title and a spot among the game's greats.
Washington faked this time, faked out everybody. He's got Sanders in the clear at the 10. Touchdown, Washington Redskins.
Joe Theismann had to overcome the perception that he wasn't even a quarterback. But the toughness he earned returning punts paid off with a tenacious victory in Super Bowl 17. Jim Plunkett was almost buried beneath the weight of great expectations and poor support in New England. But he survived to lead the Raiders to a pair of Super Bowl triumphs.
He's got it. Touchdown, Raiders!
For many years, Phil Simms was underappreciated despite his courage against overwhelming forces. But he persevered, leading the Giants to their first title in 30 years with the game of a lifetime.
It's even hard to go 22 or 25 in practice when they let you catch the ball. It is a special thing, and I'm proud of it. And I can honestly sit here and say, when every Super Bowl game starts, I'll root for the quarterbacks to throw incompletions early so I can enjoy the game and I don't have to worry about them breaking my record.
Steve Young holds a different Super Bowl record.
Jerry Rice, another touchdown!
How he got there was the difficult part. For 2 years, he was all but invisible with the lowly Tampa Bay Bucks. Traded to the 49ers, he was groomed as a successor to a player that was considered irreplaceable. Eventually, Steve Young became the starter and promptly set an NFL record by winning 4 straight passing titles. But Joe Montana had won 4 Super Bowls. The replacement needed to win at least one to silence his critics.
Won't have to hear any more talk about Steve Young getting to the Super Bowl.
I don't think for a moment that Steve Young went into the game thinking, oh my God, I've got to beat Joe. Somehow I've got to top Joe. I've got to outdo Joe. But there were a lot of people in America looking at it that way, and particularly since the team they were playing was an unknown, which, by the way, put even more pressure on Steve Young because he wasn't playing against anybody. All he could play against was that ghost named Joe Montana.
And Ricky Waters to the right. And a play fake. Young goes deep middle. He's got Jerry.
Young's 6 touchdowns bettered the record held by Joe Montana.
It was one of the rare experiences where the reality far outweighed the dream. Usually the reality never kind of quite lives up to it. It far out surpassed it. It was beyond my wildest imagination.
Steve Young is now #1 all time with 6 touchdown passes.
Someone take the monkey off my back, please.
A champion and the highest rated passer of all time. Quite simply, Steve Young is one of the greatest.
Quarterbacks are sought out and punished in many ways. They're crushed by 260-pound tidal waves rolling over them. They are trapped under an avalanche of plastic and leather armor. They are pushed, shoved, gored, and wiped out. They are calves in football's rodeo. Quarterbacks are matadors, scarred with the wounds of too many bouts with men twice their size.
Sometimes greatness is hard to define. There were many outstanding NFL quarterbacks who, for various reasons, were not fortunate enough to win championships or set passing records. They will probably never be enshrined in the Hall of Fame. But they deserve to be numbered among the very best, because to play this demanding position and perform with high standards over long periods of time is, in itself, a great accomplishment. Some of these so-called sleepers have produced some eye-opening achievements. For example, Ken Anderson was a league MVP and a 4-time passing leader. In 18 seasons with 6 different teams, Dave Craig has thrown 261 touchdown passes. That's 6th, that's right, 6th on the all-time list. The recently retired Boomer Esiason ranks high in every category, especially if you include leadership and love for the game.
Darnay, you got to be awake on this one too, Darnay. You guys, listen, I need your concentration. I need your concentration.
I think I told a couple of the young guys on the team, you know, when you get older in your career, you're going to realize just how special this actually is. And don't ever lose that special feeling about football.
Don Meredith had that passion. In the 1960s, Meredith was the inspirational leader of a Cowboy team that twice met the Green Bay Packers in the NFL championship. In their first encounter, Meredith chipped away at a 14-point Packer lead with a furious fourth-quarter comeback.
All right, 93 T-pull on set. Ready?
But a great Green Bay team denied Meredith the title. That day, the Cowboy quarterback began to hear the boos. No one blamed him when Dallas again lost the championship a year later. But when the Cowboys couldn't beat the Browns in the 1968 playoffs, Meredith lost his love for the game. At the age of 30, he retired.
Oh, it hurts to get booed. The most disappointing thing is that in your heart, you know you did the best you could. You know you did the very best that you could. And then they just say, whammo. You know, they just like, they really let you have it. And you want to say, hey, you know, but you really don't understand, people. You don't really understand what it's all about. Don't do that, you know. I don't like to see anybody get booed. Don't do that to me. Don't do it to anybody else. It's not right.
Warren Moon has thrown 279 touchdown passes. Dan Fouts threw 254. Sonny Jurgensen's 5 league-leading yardage seasons is a record. None of these players were booed into retirement, but all three share the frustration of never winning an NFL championship. This raises a dilemma. Should the criteria of rating quarterbacks be whether a player was a champion or whether he possessed the heart of one? A proponent of the latter theory is Fran Tarkenton. In 1978, he retired after 18 years as the all-time leader in yards, completions, and touchdown passes.
If you chose the top running backs of all time, can you leave Walter Payton out? If you have the leading, because he gained more yards than anybody rushing, right? In receiving, Jerry Rice, can you leave him out? Because he scored more touchdowns than anybody in the history of the world and caught more passes. But in quarterbacks, you didn't see me in the top 4. Did you? And I believe I threw for more touchdowns and more yards and more of this and more of that than other people. Why? Well, was it because I didn't win a Super Bowl?
Tarkenton lost the big one 3 times. Jim Kelly failed in 4 tries. Dan Marino was humbled in his only visit.
I will tell you this. First of all, I think Dan Marino is as good, if not better, than any quarterback that's ever played. Now, some idiot out there is going to say, well, he never won the big one. Dan Marino and Jim Kelly's career stand on their performance over a long period of time and a lot of games. And if you want to tell me that they have less character than Mark Rippon or not as good, then you're wrong.
Diane Tittle would agree. Her father played 17 seasons. In the twilight of his career, he earned 2 MVP awards while leading the Giants to 3 consecutive conference titles. But he never won the championship. His final attempt was a painful injury-plagued loss. That game inspired his daughter to write a book that, like much of Greek mythology, paid homage to the valiant rather than the victorious.
Reading Diane's book, I realized that I was sort of like that Greek that she's portraying that was in the struggle for excellence. And I always was struggling for excellence.
Helmet scratching the frozen ground. Breath. Deliberately, he put body back into a cold soul and felt the wind on his face. Putting aside the fury, the anger, the nerves, he became alert, as if to find that boy inside himself who remembered the way home and who would help him stand and walk and play the game again. It was as if the whole dream began. After the game, I remember I ran up to him to tell him that he was the champion. And he looked at me and as if I...
Back who identifies with Y.A. Tittle's gallant quest for excellence is John Elway. Three times in his career, Elway went down to bitter defeats in the Super Bowl. The inability to win the big one too often and unjustly overshadowed the heroics of a man who has never known the meaning of quit.
John Elway has done it again. This guy will go down as the greatest come-from-behind player in National Football League history.
Actually, Elway's 2-minute magic often made people forget his overall brilliance. In the history of the NFL, no quarterback has started and won more games. In fact, few players at any position could match his record of missing only 10 games in 15 seasons. Ultimately, Elway's durability paid off. He earned one more chance. This time he got help. But while Terrell Davis ran for 3 touchdowns, nobody outscored Elway when it came to inspiration.
Rush 4, plenty of time for John. Now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. Elway can run inside the 10, head first. He dives inside the 5-yard line.
My goodness! You want to
tell me the 37-year-old man doesn't want to win this game?
John Elway always had the heart of a champion. Finally, he could say that he was one.
Hit as he throws. Pass is going to be incomplete. Denver holds. Denver's going to win it.
It's only 4 words. This one's for John.
All eyes focus on the quarterback. They are the conquistadors in hip pads and helmets, the commanders-in-chief of the offense, ringmasters of sport's most complex show, artists painting bold strokes over a 100-yard landscape, gamblers winning all or nothing on one toss of the ball. Be it 9 yards or 99 yards, the quarterback's creed is that who rules the air wins the victory. A team's destiny revolves around his ability to throw a football.
Ultimately, the goal for all teams is to win championships. Often that goal requires quarterbacks to sacrifice the pursuit of lofty individual passing numbers. Some of the NFL's finest quarterbacks were quiet leaders who excelled at just that. Their best statistic was their winning percentage. That's why few quarterbacks rank ahead of Otto Graham. Graham played just 10 years. During that span, he led the Cleveland Browns to 10 consecutive title games, winning 4 All-American Conference crowns and 3 NFL championships.
My wife, Beverly, who's a real football fan, she has said many times when Joe Montana came along, he is the first quarterback that reminded her of me. Read defenses very well, accurate passer and so forth, and a good leader. And I was a good leader. I was a quiet type.
The story of just too much Otto Graham. Graham ran for 3 and passed for 3 more touchdowns with an unparalleled performance.
Low-key Bob Greasy reached great heights, leading the Dolphins to back-to-back NFL titles. How efficient was he? How about a combined 14 for 18 in 2 Super Bowl triumphs? All Troy Aikman ever does is win, as in 3 Super Bowls, and still counting.
For me, that's the important thing, is winning Super Bowls, because that's what we're here to do. I'm not going to put the assault on any record books individually, and that's fine. That's fine. I think when I look back at my career and I'm done playing, I'll be very fulfilled with it and very happy. I'm happy with it now, and there's still a lot more I'd like to do.
Fake handoff, Aikman to pass on 1st and goal from the 3, wide open, Jay Novacek, touchdown.
I think the quality of a great quarterback is being able to deliver when you have to. Anybody can play when there's really nothing at stake. Regardless of the game, regardless of the situation. But I really think the measure of the player is how well he plays under pressure when you have to win.
Starr begins the count, takes the snap, he's got the quarterback sneaking, he's in for the touchdown.
Quite simply, Bart Starr was the NFL's greatest money quarterback, racking up a record 5 championships and 2 Super Bowl MVP awards. In many ways, Brett Favre has already surpassed Starr and other previous great ones.
What a great play! What a great throw!
He's the only quarterback to throw for over 30 touchdowns in 4 straight seasons. The only player to win 3 consecutive MVP awards.
Oh, baby, what a play!
Favre is not only the best quarterback playing today, he might eventually rank higher on the all-time list. Still ahead of him is Roger Staubach, the Cowboy legend, who was, you might say, the Brett Favre of his day.
Clock is running, and they come back again. Staubach throwing, caught, touchdown! The Cowboys have come from behind twice, unbelievably.
With Staubach, the more the pressure, the more impressive he became.
Well, the Cowboys need a miracle. Roger takes the snap, ups and watches.
He's going long. Down the near sideline for Drew Pearson. Pearson makes the catch at the 5. Touchdown!
Staubach's finest day might have been his last ever regular season game. At the age of 38, suffering from injuries that hastened his retirement a few months later, he got up to lead a division-clinching comeback.
42 seconds left in the game. Redskins lead by 6. From the 8-yard line, Staubach throwing in the end zone. Tony Hill! Touchdown! Tony Hill!
Roger Staubach had guided Dallas to a pair of Super Bowl titles. He might have won 2 more had it not been for a Pittsburgh team whose quarterback was as tough as their steel curtain defense.
Believe me, I knew when I walked out on the field to warm up, this is big. I knew it was big, real big. And that's when you get nervous and you go, man, I don't want to lose this game. I don't want to lose this game. I don't want to lose this game. I am so glad I don't have to tell people what it's like to have lost the Super Bowl.
Wide and Swan makes a circus catch in the end zone. Unbelievable catch for the touchdown.
Terry Bradshaw's most defining moments came on a day when neither he nor his team were at their best. Down by 3 at halftime, he relied on his gut instincts to deliver the Steelers a record 4th Super Bowl victory.
I believe in being improvisational and flying by the seat of your pants and being creative and imaginative and sensing what's going on in the field. You know, Stallworth comes back in the huddle and says, I got a guy on a corner route. I'll run it. Nowadays, they have to wait.
Now Bradshaw pumping, firing downfield. There goes Stallworth. He pulls it in at the 30, the 20, the 10, the 5, and it's a touchdown for Pittsburgh. On the ball to Stallworth, and the Steelers fire right back on the arm of Terry Bradshaw.
Only one quarterback has ever matched Terry Bradshaw's 4 Super Bowl victories. Ironically, that player, like so many other great passers, was born and raised near Pittsburgh. This blue-collar region, once known for coal mines and steel mills, produced 6 of the NFL's 50 greatest quarterbacks. What's behind this phenomena? Start with the upbringing.
My father used to have me out in the backyard every day, punting the ball, kicking the ball, throwing the ball.
And I just kept at him every day. There was times he was getting mad at me. I knew it. When he'd turn around, and I knew he was saying something.
It was always good things, of course, right there.
Yeah.
From the time I was young, throwing a football with my dad, he's a guy that, you know, wasn't anything more than a high school football player, but he seemed to be a smart guy as far as teaching me how to throw the ball.
Just basically not wasting motion when you throw, you know, more of bringing the ball straight up rather around, which takes time. I just think it gives you more control of the ball.
I remember a little story in the summer. It's probably his junior year in high school. There was a baseball game, and Joe had pitched, and it was a very hot day. And as soon as the game was over and everybody left and went in their cars and went to the Dairy Queen or swimming or whatever, Joe and his dad went out in the outfield, and they would work on steps.
Doing a straight drop back, getting away from the line of scrimmage, and I always felt like, well, a lot of times you watch quarterbacks and you see a lot of times their first step isn't away from the line of scrimmage. And I always thought that the first step you should take is away from the line of scrimmage.
The technique was taught, the toughness inherited.
Sometimes I look back and say maybe it wasn't as much toughness as it was stupidity staying out there when I probably shouldn't have been. But a lot of times, bringing back my family, my brothers, they're saying, get up, boy. You know, you don't let those guys know that they hit you, knocked you down, put you out.
Jim Kelly went down time and again in 11 NFL seasons, but he never stayed down. He became the only quarterback to lead his team to 4 consecutive Super Bowls. We all know that, like Jim Kelly, Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. He's just done everything else better than just about any quarterback who's ever lived. He holds NFL records for career attempts, completions, yards, and touchdowns. He's the only quarterback to pass for more than 40 touchdowns in a season, and he's done it twice. And his resourcefulness has no bounds. A remarkable comeback against the Jets in 1994 was pure Marino. The beginning of the drive came right out of the playbook. The ending was something he probably learned in a playground.
With 32, 31, 30 seconds to go. I believe Marino is saying, I'm going to spike it.
Marino takes the snap from center. He's looking. He throws. Touchdown, Dolphins! That was unbelievable. They caught the Jets off guard on that play.
Do you believe it? My goodness. Do you believe it?
Oh, my goodness! What a play!
Before Marino rewrote the record book, it belonged to another Pittsburgh native, Johnny Unitas. Once drafted, then cut by the Steelers, Unitas fought his way back from the Sandlots to sign with the Baltimore Colts. Unitas led the Colts to 2 world championships. In the process, he blazed a new trail for NFL quarterbacks. He didn't just play the position, he elevated it. He threw at least 1 touchdown pass in 47 consecutive games, a record that has stood for over 30 years. With his steel nerves and quick release, Unitas made the 2-minute offense a part of football.
I didn't mind pressure. I guess people talk about pressure, but there's situations. But there's a pressure situation. Pressure is no big deal. It's a situation and how you're going to work the situation out. Getting in those situations, especially when you know that you have to get down the field quickly with your 2-minute offense, was fun to me because I enjoy putting people in situations and then making a fool out of them if you possibly can.
John Unitas stood as the master until Joe Montana came along.
The season, the outcome of a Super Bowl berth hangs in the balance. So fasten your seatbelts now. We've got turbulence and plenty of it here at Candlestick Park.
Like Unitas, Montana had the same Western Pennsylvania roots and a similar dramatic flair.
Montana rolling out the right, looking toward the end zone, throwing under pressure, throws his pass, caught by Clark, is a touchdown for the 49ers!
Montana was only 6'1" and a slender 190 pounds. But years of practicing footwork with his father, combined with instincts no one could teach, quickly stamped Montana as something special.
Montana was the perfect quarterback for Walsh's system. I once asked Bill Walsh, what is the #1 thing you ask of Montana to make him a perfect fit to your system? And he said something I never would have thought of. He said he has to, if necessary, escape the first rusher all by himself. In other words, if a guy comes in clean on him, he has to be able to make him miss all by himself, and Montana can do that.
Montana going to throw, rolls out. In trouble, slips, falls, lobs it to Craig. Touchdown 49ers. What a play by Montana.
He was doing the same thing that everyone else was doing, but he made it look a heck of a lot easier. And I don't know how he did. I mean, everyone else was trying to do the same thing. Get back quickly, find the open guy, throw him the ball. I mean, that's basically what being a quarterback is in a passing game. And Joe Montana was doing that, but he would just make it look like it wasn't much of an effort.
Joe Montana even made it look effortless in the most pressure-packed situations.
Joe back to throw, steps up, throws, out here for right. He has it in midfield, goes out of bounds at about the 40.
It got to a point where he had so much confidence, he knew he was going to do it. The players that were in the huddle knew that he was going to do it. The fans in the stands knew he was going to do it. And where it becomes the ultimate is when the other team knows he's going to do it.
All right, we got 3 timeouts. This is deja vu.
Montana at quarterback, in motion, comes right. Back to throw Montana. Steps up, throws. Touchdown, 49ers! The 49ers have scored with 34 seconds remaining.
Montana played every game as if it were the Super Bowl.
To me, his best game ever was against Philadelphia, in Philadelphia, when he was just getting clobbered by a great Philadelphia defense. I mean, he kept getting knocked down, and he'd find a way to pick himself up, and threw 5 touchdowns in the second half, 4 of them in the fourth quarter, to beat a good Philadelphia team. That was unbelievable.
I had the opportunity to do so many Joe Montana games, to be at so many Joe Montana games, that I thought the one that I remember most, or the most impressive one, just happened in his last season when he was with the Kansas City Chiefs. He can take the 49ers and beat the Chiefs, and then he could take the Chiefs and beat the 49ers. And he did it that day. I mean, I thought that he was super that day, that he took in Kansas City, it was just the second game of the regular season, but he took a team that was inferior, and and he just made them look super. I mean, that to me was Joe Montana.
Joe Montana will forever be defined by his greatness in the Super Bowl, where he won a record 3 MVP awards. His legacy was also one of courage and resilience. Twice, he suffered injuries that threatened to end his career, but both times he came back and played better than ever. Joe Montana, in postseason play, has completed more passes for more yards and more touchdowns than any quarterback in NFL history. In 4 Super Bowls, he attempted 122 passes and never once threw an interception.
There's so many great quarterbacks that it's hard to say, but at some point you have to say, I mean, you have to think that someone is the best that ever played, and if you really think that, you got to say it. You got to throw the disclaimers away. Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback that ever played the game.
We are retiring number 16 forever with our grateful gratitude to Joe for what he did for all of us. God bless you.
The NFL was larger than life, and it was a far dream at 8 years old. But all of a sudden it became a reality, and through my career, it stayed pretty much a dream. There are times you laugh and times that you cry, and either way, there's a special meaning behind it, and it's something that will always be with you.
Thank you for letting me share in a part of your life every Sunday afternoon, and thank you for sharing an important part of my life.
I wanted to throw one more pass in my Giant jersey. So, who better to catch that pass than the greatest Giant player of all, Lawrence Taylor, straight down the field. Real easy. Yeah. Hey.
For the millions of fans who watched a man become a legend on the football field, it's my pleasure today to present the latest Dallas Cowboy in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Mr. Roger Staubach.
You cannot do it alone. You have to have a great deal of help. And I had the help all the way along.
When I fell down and disappointed him, instead of kicking me around and telling me I was a no-good so-and-so who wasn't like they used to be, he pulled me up in my deepest sorrows and disappointments and hugged me and told me he loved me and let me understand what love was all about. That little 5'6" man who did not know whether the football was blown or stuffed loved to watch his son play football. And he died watching me play football when we played in the famous Hail Mary game against the Dallas Cowboys in a playoff game, and he had just finished a sermon in Savannah, Georgia, and died some 10 years ago. That little man is not with us today in person, but I know he's looking on. And I know he's proud. My nature was attack. Throw it deep. Anybody can throw wide. Let's go deep. You got him playing the huddle. Swan, let's throw a hook. John said, Brad, I got him on a deep. Earl, 50
50 yards.
Going deep. Let's go deep. Bradshaw is back, and he's going to Swan, and Swan makes a circus catch in the end zone.
Wasn't it fun? Didn't y'all like seeing that stuff fly down there? I mean, it was fun. What a ride.
I like it the way it is today. I wish I was playing today. Man, I like it. Because it's a passing man game this day and time.
Dan Marino becomes the all-time leader in pass completions in NFL history, and before this season is over, he will own every record known to man.
Kneeling down in the huddle in Super Bowl 17 and looking up at those 10 guys. I get goosebumps now. Looked up to those 10 guys, and I made the call, winning Super Bowl formation on 2. It broke the huddle, and man, I'm fighting back tears of joy. I had reached the point where I wanted to be in my life. When I took the snap and knelt down and I put my hands in the air, I had my one moment in time.
Wow! I share this with every one of you guys. Everyone in this room made a commitment, and we're there. And no one can ever take it away from us, ever!
When the game ended, there was such a feeling of elation, joy, a tickling explosion inside. The teammates, you know, we did it! We did it! It was wonderful. And going off that field, it was kind of like the finality of it. You know, yes, and everybody's cheering and funny. We did it! We did it! We did it! We were #1. Now, I never put my hand up like that for some reason. I don't know why, but that's the only time. And it was just a feeling. I didn't think about it. It was just, yes! 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 Oh, it was great.
From his days as Paul Brown's quarterback coach in Cincinnati, through his 3 Super Bowl championships as the 49ers head coach, Bill Walsh framed a philosophy of playing quarterback that has come to define the position.
There are those evaluating quarterbacks, and they're looking for tangibles, measurables, arm strength, how this guy can throw the ball on the line 70 yards. Or they're looking, this guy weighs 242 pounds, and he's 6'5". These are measurables that sometimes you can use with certain positions. But with the quarterback position, instinct is a major factor. That's the difference between being a good player and a great player. Instincts and even an intuitive way to play the game. Your own style that you don't know exists, but it's just how you respond to things. You're looking for spontaneous plays. When something out of the ordinary happens or something that's unexpected happens, what does the quarterback do? And that's a way to measure.
Elway, here comes the blitz. He steps away from it and lets the pass go long. He's going for a touchdown.
Well, here we are. I don't know how many can do this. And he gets away with it. And if he doesn't get away with it, he'll try it the next play. Not there, not there, not there. Got to get out of there. Uh-oh, trouble. Reverse back out. Now, know where your receivers are. Again, hard to believe. Know where your receivers are. Then throw accurately after all of that with just your upper body. Perfectly thrown ball on the run. Brett Favre is spontaneous. More than any other quarterback, he can make things happen on his own. Steve Young, one of the greatest athletes ever to play quarterback. Tremendous speed, better speed than virtually every man on the field. Making plays that just aren't made by quarterbacks.
Listening to Bill Walsh, it's very clear that he evaluates quarterbacks differently than most. For him, success at the most demanding position in the game begins with the feet, not with the arm.
23-yard scramble, the best by Steve Young since the Minnesota Viking game a decade ago.
This is one of the great runs probably we'll ever see any man make, but this demonstrates the great athletic ability of this athlete. How many men he makes miss? Even the greatest running backs don't do this. Sort of ran out of gas. What a run. There are so many plays the active, mobile, quick-footed quarterback could make that the slower quarterback couldn't make. And no one would ever know it because the slower man would get sacked, and they blamed the pass protector for it. And those men who can avoid and throw are those men who survive.
Still has the ball, throws into the end zone. It's going to be caught.
This is a marvel to watch. Avoiding to the left. Very difficult. Avoiding to the left, getting back in a right-handed stance again. You see, he's back into a throwing position. So if you do open your left shoulder to avoid somebody, get your right hip back again, then you can deliver that ball with force. He's a little quicker on his feet than you'd think. And so he can avoid people and then wing that ball very quickly. Now here's the one quarterback who was an absolute artist in the way he played the game. It was almost sensuous in his movement, artistic, like a ballet dancer. And his feet are the absolute key. And it was just wondrous to watch this man move. I'd have to say he had the greatest feet and movement and balance of any quarterback ever to play. Elway is one of the few quarterbacks that can use just his arm to get everything done. Now, this is a combination really of size, strength, and power. John has always been at his best with a lot of room, working well to the outside, finding people down the field. Again, a flash of a delivery, quick delivery. He drills the ball. John has become one of the greatest of all time just recently. He's always been an outstanding player, a brilliant player. But just recently, the last few years, he's come in another stage of his career where he blends the precision with Mike Shanahan's offense to his own spontaneity, and has brought John Elway certainly into the Hall of Fame, but among the truly great players of all time.
The Lakers starting lineup.